Hey Jim, would you be willing to check and see if it says REC? Yay, thank you. Okay, conflict and the ego. It says, the abilities man now possesses are only shadows of man's real strength. So we're conflict and ego, original edition. And that's because all of man's functions are equivocal, which means open to question and doubt. So we're chapter 3, section 6 in the original. Okay. Now, so all of man's functions are equivocal, which means open to question and doubt. And this is because man is not certain how man will use his real strengths or his abilities. Okay? So the abilities that we have now are only shadows of our real strengths. The abilities we have now, shadows, only shadows of our real strength. And the reason that is because all of our abilities that we possess, they're still open to a lot of question and doubt. We are questioning and doubting our abilities, are we not? We are, right? Right? We have these abilities, but we kind of doubt them. We kind of question them. I've got this great ability to write. I've got this great ability to teach. I've got this great ability to build. But I'm full of doubt about them. I have doubt about those abilities. Why is that? I have doubt about my abilities because I'm not certain how I'm going to use them. Why is it I don't really build more upon the abilities I recognize I have? Have you ever wondered that about yourself? I've got this talent, and I know I've got that talent, I'm good at that, and I know I love to do that, and I like to do that, and I'm good at that. And people have told me I'm great at that, but why is it I don't build more upon them or develop them more? Why is that? Why is it that it's something that's a real strength of mine, I only experience a shadow of it? Why is that? Because I'm not certain how I will use these abilities. I'm not certain how I will use my strengths. Is that interesting? I have a writing talent, but I don't develop it. Why is that? Because I'm not really sure how I'm going to use it. I'm not sure what it's for. I'm not sure how I'm going to use it. And I'm doubting it. I'm doubting it. I don't know. Is it good enough? I don't know. Will people like it? I don't know. I'm doubting it. I'm not sure how I'm going to use it. I'm doubting my abilities because I'm not sure how I'm going to use them. Apparently, part of me is afraid I might use them for, I don't know, something that doesn't seem holy to me, right? And that's why the abilities I have now are only shadows of my real strengths. Wow, isn't that interesting? I mean, it really does speak to something we can all probably relate to, right? Have these great abilities that we just don't really put much energy into, don't really work to develop them or build them, even though we think we should. And this answer is why we don't do that, right? Because we doubt them. We doubt them. Well, nobody really needs that. Oh, who needs another book, right?
I'm seriously afraid I'll miscreate.
And that's exactly what it's saying.
I believe I have the
yes.
power. I'm afraid I'll miscreate with him.
Exactly. And isn't it interesting? He's saying that's why we doubt. That's why we doubt our abilities. That's why we doubt them. Because I'm afraid that if I have this ability, if I have this strength, I'm afraid of what I'll do with it. Right? And I see what I've done with, I see what I've done with the abilities and strength that I have now, which are only shadows. My God, what if I, really used it? What if I really developed it? I'm afraid of how I would use it. Wow. I'm afraid I would, if I really let myself develop and build upon that ability and that strength, I'm afraid that I would make myself separate or whatever, or I would misuse them. I'm afraid of my power. I'm afraid of power. I'm afraid of my own power because I'm afraid I would misuse it. I'm afraid of my strength. I'm afraid of how great I am at da-da-da because I'm afraid I would misuse it. Wow. So if you're really wanting to get at the bottom of why is it that I cannot get it together and get motivated to develop this particular ability or strength that I know I have, what is up with that? and you really want to get to the bottom of that so you can get to the building of your ability, which is your special function, then what you need to do is look at your fears around it. What am I afraid would happen if I wrote that book and became a great writer, or if I built that thing, or if I let myself become the great da-da-da that I know I can be, right? Look at your fears and look at your fear about what would be the worst thing that could happen if you really developed that ability. And look at what you're afraid you might use it for, or how you might misuse it. Look at that. Stalk your fear about how you feel you could possibly misuse it. Wow, isn't that interesting? That would be the way to get at the core of, according to this, of why you just don't have the motivation or the follow-through to develop that ability that you know you have. Interesting. And I'm sure everyone in this room can relate to that. We all have abilities that we know we have, but we've shrouded them in a ton of doubt, self-doubt. It's like, here's this great ability, and we took our self-doubt, we just wrapped it around that so that it never really breaks through the surface and it never blossoms, right? So, let's do that tonight. All right. Then it says, we are therefore incapable of knowledge. Why are we incapable of knowledge? Because we're uncertain. Because remember, knowledge is certainty. We are also incapable of knowledge because we can perceive lovelessly. Okay? So you can't remember, knowledge is certainty. There's perception and then there's knowledge. Perception is interpretation. Knowledge is certainty. Okay? So he says, you're incapable of knowledge because you can perceive lovelessly. And you cannot create surely because your perception deceives. You see, perception did not exist until the separation had introduced degrees, aspects, and intervals. Now the soul has no levels, which means all conflict arises from the concept of levels. Isn't that interesting? Soul has no aspects, degrees, intervals, levels. There's none of those in the soul, right? And then conflict, where did conflict come from? Conflict came from this concept of levels. And it says, only the levels of the Trinity are capable of unity, but the levels which man created by the separation cannot but conflict. And the levels that we created can't but conflict because the levels that we introduced are essentially meaningless to each other. Okay, what the heck does that just say? I know she's talking English. Okay, so here's the concept. In the soul, there's no levels, there's no degrees, there's no aspects, there's no intervals, there's no levels. Okay, but when we introduced the separation, when we had introduced the separation, when we separated, then we made levels within our own minds. We made these levels, right? It's going to go on to talk about those levels, right? Like superconscious, conscious, unconscious, okay? Those are the levels that we introduced into consciousness when we separated from God. So instead of being one integrated, one consciousness, one mind, one being, we introduced levels. In other words, now not only are we separate from source, but we're also separate in ourselves. Now, I'm not just one mind, I'm levels. I got my superconscious level, and I got my conscious level, and then I got my unconscious level. See that? Now I'm split. And not just split into two, but I'm split into levels. See? That's what happened after we separated from God. When we took our little detour from God, we split into levels. And guess what about these levels? They are totally in conflict with each other. And why are the levels in my awareness, in my consciousness, why are the levels in my mind totally in conflict with each other? So my unconscious is in conflict with my superconscious, which is in conflict with my conscious mind, right? Why is it that all the levels inside of me are all in conflict with each other and they don't know each other? That's because the levels that I've split myself into are totally meaningless to each other. So my unconscious mind is completely meaningless to my superconscious, and vice versa. They don't know, my ego doesn't know about the superconscious. You know, my subconscious doesn't know what's happening in my higher mind, right? And my higher mind surely isn't paying much attention and worried about what's happening in my unconscious mind, right? They don't even talk to each other. And so after the separation, when we ran away from God, we split our mind into these levels. They don't know each other. They don't know of each other, and they're in total conflict. And so the end result is that here I am, I look like one person, I look like one integrated human being, right? But I have warring factions inside of me. Like, you know, I want this thing over here, but then I notice my behavior does this. What is up with that? I say I only want peace and love, peace and love, peace and love, and then I turn around and attack, right? I say I only want peace and love, and then I attack myself and sabotage. What is up with that? It's almost as if there's these warring factions within me. It's almost as if there's something really hidden and secret driving the show, really, totally despite what my words say. Have you ever felt like that? Have you ever experienced like that? You know, I speak these words, but then my behavior shows something totally different. That is the result of being split into different levels that don't know each other. And they're in total conflict. So what my superconscious mind is saying and seeing, my unconscious is doing the exact opposite. And then I look insane. You know? That's why it seems like we're all so full of contradictions. And you get to know somebody, and what do? You're like, wow, that person's full of contradictions. Wow, okay, you know, I was listening to what their words were saying. It sounds so awesome, and then I saw what they were doing. Right? We've certainly seen that within other people, right?
Other people.
Yes, other people. And if we're honest, we certainly know people say that about us. We know we see that. We know we see it in other people, and we've also heard other people say. You know, I was driving with Arya the other day, and I was in traffic, and I was starting to get frustrated, and I was really pissed about being in rush hour, and I should have stayed home, and I was just like, oh, of course, just stay home. And my frustration level was rising, and I was just like, I'm starting to do that grumble, you know. And Arya goes, you're not really practicing everything you teach in your classes, right?
Oh.
And I was like,
That's right, honey.
Damn, I gave birth to my teacher. And, you know, like now I have my own little, like, you know, contradiction meter, you know. So, I was like, that's true, you're right, okay, all right, I'm going to choose peace. So I actually did, like, you know, I'm glad that I actually, like, pulled it together, you know, instead of totally confirming what she was saying. But this is why we appear to be a bundle of contradiction. This is why other people seem to be a bundle of contradiction, and it's this. Even though we seem to be one integrated being, we have split our mind into levels that are in conflict with each other. And so we're not integrated. We don't think with an integrated mind. We don't have an integrated mind. We have a split mind and split into levels, right? Okay, so this course has the purpose of helping us to integrate our mind so we're not just this walking mass of contradictions that cancels its, you know, that it keeps canceling itself out. right? I don't want to be split like that. I want to be integrated, right? I want my behavior to be in harmony with what I say, and I want what I say to be in harmony with what I do. I want to be integrated instead of in contradiction with my own self. Okay? So, and that's also the deeper psychological makeup or essence of what we would call severe mental illness. That's when that split that's already within us goes, whoa, right? It just, you know, our split maybe seems like this in normal life, normal consciousness, okay? Let's just say our split, or it's in levels like this. And then when we go into what we would call a mental health crisis, the split, the levels go like the split gets bigger, right? This part over here is that much farther from that part over there. Yes.
And they're not only meaningless to one another, then they're unknown to each other.
That's
at
right.
times.
That's exactly right. And that's why it is that sometimes it is so mysterious. Some of our behaviors and our choices are so mysterious. Why do I keep doing it? It's hurting me. It's ruining my life. It's ruining the life of my loved ones. Why? It's so mysterious. Because one level is in total conflict with the other level, and they don't know each other. They're meaningless to each other. Right? And that's how that happens. Why you're like, I don't understand. Well, okay, then the only remedy is to get to know those different levels, right? Whatever one is in the shadows, you need to bring to your conscious mind, whether it's the superconscious or the unconscious, whether it's the ego or the spirit within you. They need to be all brought. You know, in other words, I need to look at my secret level, my unconscious. I also need to look at my superconscious, which is my higher mind also. I need to look at that, right? I need to look at them. I'm keeping them both in the dark from each other and from myself. So if I want to become integrated again and I want to be mentally healthy again, then I'm going to have to pull those levels into my conscious mind. I'm going to have to look at the secret unconscious level, the stuff I have not been wanting to look at, that has to be there if I'm doing that kind of behavior. And I also need to bring the superconscious, my higher mind, out of the secret, you know, out of the dark also, and go, wow, I must be really holy if that is occurring, right? That's how you begin to become integrated, okay? Which means mentally healthy, right? Okay.
So that mystery is nothing more than my conscious not being in contact with one of the other of those levels.
Exactly. And those levels not being in contact with the other levels too. Like, it would be possible for my superconscious, you know, to have maybe a dialogue. Like, sometimes I do that sometimes in my therapy sessions. I'll have the higher mind and the lower mind have a dialogue. Right? Or I will facilitate, you know, their conscious mind having a dialogue with the unconscious, which means the unwatched mind. Or vice versa, you know, with the higher mind also, right? Create a dialogue between those hidden separate levels within our own mind so that they are not in conflict and they are not meaningless to each other or to you. Does that make sense? Okay.
Are you telling us we're all kind of these three levels?
That's what I'm saying. That when man split, when man separated from source, right, then that's what happened. Then man introduced levels, right, into himself, right, so that now I'm split into parts that don't communicate and don't know each other. And then my behavior is reflecting these opposites in me, and it's making me feel crazy. It's certainly making me look crazy, right? You know, it's like, well, who is she anyway? You know, one day she's doing this and the next day she's doing that. You know, what's the real her? And then we within ourselves are going, what's the real me? Is it the loving part that's creative and loving and open and free and happy? Or is it this part that's jealous and possessive and mean and scared and self-sabotaging? And which one am I? Will the real me please stand up? Right? So that's, you know, and it's good to know that. This is a very, very self-healing concept. Because if you can look at your conflict like that, oh, my levels are totally in conflict, I need to get some communication going between them, and you can look at your conflict like that, then you can get somewhere. Okay?
I don't know if it means anything, but I find it interesting. We did with our mind just what we did with time. Past, present, future, the same three levels I'm going.
Very good.
As creatures that think we're in time,
yeah.
we did the same thing with ourselves. What's up with that?
Yeah, because if you make a choice to split from source, then that is what you get with everything. Split, 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 division, 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 like a fracturing, you know? Like you get a tiny little of a rock into your windshield, what happens? Right? One split, and then it all shatters. Right? It just keeps going. And then here we have this concept of ourself that's shattered, that's splintered, so that I don't even know what's me, and I've got parts over here, and they don't know the parts over here. And sometimes my behavior is from here, and sometimes my behavior is from there, and so my behavior is erratic, and my mind is confused. Right? That's how that happens. You know, and I can certainly go, well, my behavior is erratic, and I'm definitely confused. Now I know how that happened. And now I hear the answer. It is to go for integration, where you experience a mind that's one, where I don't have a hidden shadow part called the unconscious, and I don't have a hidden higher mind that's called the superconscious, right? And I don't have a conscious that's always just, you know, selecting between them all the time. I just have a mind that's integrated, right? I have one thought, one purpose, one will, one life, one source, one creation. Hallelujah. Now that's integration. One purpose, one will, one mind, one source, one creation. And that's what my mind holds, and that's what my mind knows. Now my mind is integrated, and I'm not split and shattered mentally or psychologically.
Is this another thing where, okay, we did it for whatever reason, and this getting in touch with my other minds, is that where can Holy Spirit be helpful in that, in integrating?
Yes, exactly. And I think I think it goes on to talk about how to do that. But this is the first part. Is like, you know, it's like letting the Course in Miracles kind of open up the top on your consciousness and go, let's do a little anatomy lesson about your consciousness, shall we? Don't be scared. What you'll be looking at is really nothing. Don't be scared. Don't be scared when looking at your ego or your unconscious, because what you will be looking at is really nothing. So don't be scared. Anything you're afraid to look at and can't see very well is really nothing. All right. Because if you were looking at reality, it could only fill you with joy. All right. So then it goes, he talks about Freud, which I love. He talks about Freud. Now, they took out the part about Freud in the edited version. So we have the treat of hearing what the teacher of the Course has to say about Freud.
Do they say anything about Jung?
Yes, he does. Yes, he does. And it may be in this section. It's somewhere close by. If it's not in this actual section, it might be the next one. because he does. So he said Freud realized this perfectly. Realized what? That man had split his mind into levels that don't know each other. Freud got that part right, right? And that is why Freud conceived the different levels in his view of the psyche as forever irreconcilable. Freud got that much. But he saw that they didn't know each other. But he sees them as forever irreconcilable, okay? He says the levels that we introduced into our consciousness, the levels in us were conflict prone by definition. Why? Because the levels in our mind wanted different things, and the different levels in our minds obeyed different principles, right? So you see, and it's exactly what Freud was saying. There's these different levels in you, and they want different things. What does the id want? To do whatever the hell it wants to do whenever the hell it wants to do it. Right? That's the id, or the ego. And, and then the ego is, the part that's going to try to, like, keep the peace, keep the peace, keep the peace, do the right thing, the ego, according to Freud. And then the superconscious, which is the higher mind, which wants to do the good thing, the right thing, okay? So these different levels in our mind, Freud saw obey different principles and want different things. So would it be safe to say that there are different levels within me that want different things and obey different principles? Mm-hmm. Right, okay. Isn't that why we have erratic behavior? Right? Why is it that you have very contradictory behavior that seems like it's self-sabotaging behavior? One part does one thing and the other part comes and sabotages it. Right? Honey, because I got different levels in me and they want different things and they obey different principles. Wow. Interesting.
You're just following 3 different leaders there.
Exactly. I've got 3 different masters within me. And they all want different things and obey different principles, but they all want me to follow them. And that's why I look like I do. That's why I look as confused as I do. That's why my behavior seems as erratic as it does, and I'm sorry. I'm working on integration. Please be patient with me, and I will be patient with you. This is explaining a lot, isn't it? About the nature of our mysterious behavior. Right? It clears it up. Now the mystery about what's going on with you that's producing such bizarre results is explained. Okay? Now we still have to go for the integration solution, but at least we're going, oh, that's why I am like I am. Okay. So then it says, now he's going to talk about the different levels according to, let's see. No. Now he's going to talk about the Course in Miracles perspective on the different levels. Okay, he mentioned Freud and his different levels, which are totally irreconcilable, wanting different things, obeying different principles. He says, but in our picture of the psyche, in the picture of the psyche from A Course in Miracles, there is an unconscious level, which properly consists only of the miracle ability and which should be under my direction. Okay, so I'm going to stop there for a second, because that's a totally different picture of the unconscious than what Freud showed us. Okay? So he's saying that the unconscious level really should be the miracle ability level from which miracles are unconscious. In other words, he's saying the only thing that should be unconscious is your loving acts or your loving thoughts. That's the only thing that should be unconscious. In other words, really the unconscious should hold the loving impulse. That should be just your go-to, your default setting, your unconscious. That's what really should be unconscious. And the unconscious level, he said, should be under my direction. Wow. Well, I've just done the exact opposite with the unconscious level, haven't I? I've made the ego unconscious, meaning the default setting, and I've totally put myself in charge of my unconscious. But did our teacher just say that my unconscious mind should be under love's direction? His direction? Wow. Imagine that. What if your unconscious mind was under love's direction and you unconsciously thought lovingly and unconsciously acted lovingly? That's what your unconscious mind really should be doing, and that's what it's really for. Wow. Boy, did we get that one wrong. Woof. Because right now I'm unconsciously unconscious. I'm unconsciously unloving. And right now I have to make a conscious choice to be loving. I have to consciously choose to not be separate and to join. Okay? But that's what the Course in Miracles view of this, in the Course in Miracles view of the psyche, that's the nature of the unconscious. Okay? The unconscious mind. Now, in a few sections back, he defines the unconscious mind as the unwatched mind. Isn't that a great definition? The unwatched mind. Okay? So my unconscious mind is the mind I ain't watching. I shove a lot of crap into it. Everything I don't want to look at, I shove it down into my conscious mind. And then I don't watch it. I take my eyes off of it. I go, get out of my sight. It's kind of like the way I do house cleaning. I don't know about you guys, but I have a few little places that I call my unwatched corners. And I just shove all the things I don't know what to do with, but I don't want to get rid of because I'm afraid and I believe in lack. I'm not using it. I don't know what to do with it, but I'm not going to give it away. I'm going to shove it into a corner that I don't see very often, right? And that's how I also deal with my own mind, okay? Now, the unwatched mind is the unconscious within me, okay? All right. So then it says that in the Course in Miracles view of the psyche, now there's the conscious level. So now there's the conscious mind. What is the conscious mind? Well, that's the level which perceives or is aware of impulses from both the unconscious and the superconscious. Okay, so you see what the conscious mind is? It's aware of impulses from higher mind, unconscious mind, and it's aware of impulses from both. You know, the higher mind is saying love, forgive, join, and the conscious mind is registering those impulses, and the unconscious mind is saying hide, project, attack, and it's aware of those impulses. That's the conscious mind. Okay? See that? All right. And it says that, and then it says, consciousness is thus the level of perception, but not of knowledge. Again, to perceive is not to know. So the conscious mind, that's the level of perception, because that's the level of choice. So my conscious mind is doing what? It's selecting, and rejecting. In other words, my conscious mind is perceiving. Remember, perceiving means choosing. Perceiving means selecting, because I only see what I select. So my conscious mind is going, which one do I want to select from moment to moment? Which one do I want to select from moment to moment? And that's what my conscious mind sees or hears, according to what I'm selecting. Impulses from higher mind or impulses from lower mind. And I'm selecting and rejecting from moment to moment. And then that's what I see. Whatever I've selected. Whichever impulses I've decided to go with. Isn't that interesting? Great little psychology lesson tonight, eh?
I choose based upon my interpretation, and I interpret based upon my choices.
That's right. That's exactly right. And interpretation is your choices, and it is your selection. Because remember, perception is based on selectivity. There is no objective perception. There's no objective perception. It's not like that. I will always see what I select. And there's two things I can select from, and that's the unconscious impulses or the higher mind, the superconscious impulses. Those are my two choices, right? And according to how I select it from any moment, that's what I'm going to see. Now, but because the conscious mind is the choosing mind, then the conscious level is not the realm of knowledge. Because knowledge isn't this thing they're going, I choose that, and that, and that. Right? The conscious mind, the knowledge just knows what the truth is with certainty. It's not sitting here selecting and rejecting and selecting and rejecting according to how you feel in the moment. That's not the level of knowledge. That's not, the mind that knows something isn't doing that. The mind that knows and has knowledge isn't choosing what it wants to be real and true from moment to moment. The mind that knows is like, hey man, truth is true. That's it. And I know that that's all there is, and that's all that will be. And that truth is true for everyone in all space and time, and it's never going to change because it came from God, and I'm just going to enjoy it. I'm just going to enjoy it. That's what the mind that knows, that has real knowledge, true wisdom, that's what that mind is doing from moment to moment. It's not sitting there trying to make up reality and select what it would like to be true from moment to moment to moment, depending on how it feels, right? That's not what knowledge is doing. That's not what wisdom's doing. That's what I'm doing.
So is that why I was going to say it seems so hard to us, but really it would be impossible. If my perception is this impulse, it's already been prejudged. It's either an innocent perception or a guilty.
That's right.
And by the time I threw it out there, it just carries that interpretation with it to present to me. So the only way to change that is go back and put something else out there.
That's right.
Not try to change what I'm already looking at.
Exactly.
Which is what we try to do and not very successful at because it's impossible.
That's exactly right. And that's why we're so frustrated and angry a lot of the time. So thank you for saying that. So you can't, it doesn't make any sense to go out into the externals and try to change it. The best you can do is go, okay, I would like to select something different. Okay, I think I would like to select something different. Okay, and now I'm going to try to respond to impulses from the higher mind, right? And then once you've created a habit of doing that, then you go from perception to knowledge. But you don't skip. You don't go from wrong perception to knowledge or to wisdom. Okay? You choose better. So you don't go from misperception straight to knowledge or true wisdom. You go through the level of learning how to correctly perceive or choose better. And then you go, but once you have correct perception, once you've allowed your perception, which is not the realm of knowledge, and you're correctly perceiving, then and only then you go beyond perception. So, in other words, you choose right, you choose with love, you choose right, you choose with love first, and then you go beyond choice to knowledge. Because knowledge is like this. There is no choice. There ain't nothing to choose between. There's only one. There's only reality. There's only love. There's no like, gotta figure something out. I gotta analyze something. I gotta make something happen. I gotta figure out what it means. I gotta decide what it means. I gotta figure myself out. The mind that knows that there's nothing to choose between. There's only one. Right? If everything is one, there's only one life, one truth, one self, then what's there to choose between? Right? But we're still in duality. We're still in the split mind, meaning there's things that are opposite to choose between. That's the level that we're at. Yeah. And so at this level, our highest goal is to, if we're going to still be in the level of choice, as if there's something to choose between, then we need to choose right. We need to choose love. And we need to do it and 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 do it until we realize, oh, there's nothing to choose between. The only love is real. Only love is real. There's nothing to sit here and figure out anymore. There's nothing to sit here and judge or figure out or analyze or try to change. There's only love. Only love is real. And then boom, you go beyond perception and choice to knowledge.
So we did it again. I'm trying to understand what I see. When I see correctly, I will understand it.
That's exactly right.
There's nothing to understand.
That's exactly right.
Obvious.
Exactly.
If I'm confused, I'm still looking at the wrong thing. I'm
Beautiful.
trying to figure out what isn't there.
Thank you. I love it. Beautiful. So that's why it says consciousness is, that's the level of perception, but not of knowledge, because to perceive is not to know. To perceive is not to know. Who here has perception?
I got them all.
Do you have perception? P.S. To perceive is not to know. Okay, so it's like this, you know. Do you still have perception? That means you still need correction. Perception means I need correction. Isn't that deep? You got correction? You got perception? You need correction. That's it. Because to perceive is not to not know.
I think it's maybe interesting that in the New Testament, the terms sin and repent, like you're describing, were originally metaphors for archery.
Yes, missing the mark.
To sin is to miss the bullseye, the mark.
That's right.
Love.
That's right.
And to repent is nothing more than to correct your aim, or to make a choice closer to where we want to be.
Yes.
So it's consistent, although now they've taken on all this baggage and they mean something moral or immoral.
Right.
Sin and repent, but they have nothing to do with that. It's the process of getting there.
That's exactly right. Exactly. The process of accepting correction. You know, not getting punished. Punishment doesn't correct anything. Punishment doesn't correct anything ever, ever, ever. Wow. Whether it's you punishing yourself or another. Wow. And then the Course tells us that all of suffering is us punishing ourselves instead of saying, I am mistaken and I ask for correction. Love. Wow. There's your two options. You can either punish yourself or another in hopes that maybe you won't do it again, or you can say, I ask for correction for this mistake that I made and I'm wrong. There's your two options. One works, the other does not. One makes you make the mistake again, but this time we'll call it sin. The other one undoes the mistake completely to the point where you can't even remember it. It disappears and all its effects go with it. Those are our two options. Wow. Okay. Good stuff, huh? Interesting. I love the original edition. It's got some good stuff in it that, you know, is such a gift. This next line also is in the original but not the edited. And it says, oh, sorry, I just skipped ahead. Okay, never mind what I just said. No problem, Anna.
Correct.
I don't remember what you say anyway. Thanks for telling me what to do when I'm already doing. It makes it really easy on me. I like that. Forget everything I'm going to say. Forget everything I'm going to say. Forget everything I'm going to say. All right. Now you won't feel guilty for forgetting what I'm about to say. And then maybe you'll remember it. All right. It says, consciousness was the first split that man introduced into himself. I introduced a split into myself. That's where consciousness came from. And once that happened, then I became a perceiver rather than a creator in the true sense. Wow. Well, I could have been a creator, but no. No, I'd rather be a perceiver. Great. Consciousness is correctly identified as the domain of the ego. And why is that? Well, that's because the ego is a man-made attempt to perceive yourself as you wish to be rather than as you are. Isn't that a great definition of the ego? I have my man-made attempt to see myself as I would be rather than as I really am. That's my ego. Wow. That's what the ego is, a man-made attempt. That just sounds lame, doesn't it? A man-made attempt. That attempt is man-made. That's what the ego is. A man-made attempt to see myself as I wish to be rather than I am. Rather than as I am. That's what my ego is. And this is an example. My ego is an example of the created-creator confusion. The creator-created confusion, which we have spoken of before, okay? So I have a created-creator confusion. In other words, I'm confused. Who's the creator? Who's the created? I'm confused, right? And I know I'm confused because I am trying to be the creator. I am trying to make up my own reality, right? I'm confused. And that's what my ego is. It's that confusion, okay? Then it says, yet man can only know himself as he is, because that is all that man can be aware of. Everything else besides what you are is open to question. Isn't that interesting? Okay. The only thing I can be certain of is what I am. And it's the only thing I can be certain of. What I am. Everything else is open to question. Okay? All right. Then it says, the ego is the questioning compartment. This is another great definition of the ego. Okay? This is also in the original, but not the edited. Okay? The ego. What's the ego? It's the questioning compartment in the post-separation psyche which man created for himself. Isn't that a great definition? I'll say that again. Your ego is the questioning compartment.
Why are you doing that? What's going on? What do you mean? What is wrong with you? What's your problem? What's my problem? What's up with God? What's God's problem? What's going on here? What's happening?
The questioning compartment. Isn't that great?
It's always asking questions. What is your problem? What's up with you? What's up with that?
What does that mean? What is that for? What's wrong with you? What's wrong with me? What's wrong with God? Where is God? The questioning compartment of the post-separation, in the post-separation psyche. Love it. The post-separation psyche, which we created for ourselves. Right? It's the part that's always asking questions, but never perceiving any meaningful answers. It's asking a lot of questions, but does it ever listen? No. It's always asking a lot of questions, but never. It says it is capable, the ego is capable of asking valid questions, but not of perceiving valid answers. Why? Because valid answers are cognitive, which means of knowledge, and cannot be perceived. The endless speculation about the meaning of mind has led to considerable confusion. Well, why? Because the mind is confused. Only one-mindedness is without confusion. And that's because a separated, which means a divided mind, must be confused. A divided or a separated mind is uncertain by definition. A divided mind has to be in conflict because a divided or separated mind is out of accord with itself. Wow. Okay. So that's our ego, and that's where our conflict comes from. My mind is out of accord with itself. Wow, my mind is out of accord with itself. In other words, different levels in my mind are out of accord with each other. They are in conflict. Different levels of my mind are in conflict with each other. That's where my conflict is coming from, right?
This is why those lines about the ego doesn't know anything, the ego doesn't have any answers.
That's right.
It's just a questioner.
Right.
But it follows as soon as we said, no, I'm not who I am. Then the very next thought is, so what am I?
Exactly. Exactly.
And we've been trying to make that up ever since.
Exactly. And like he says, you know, the endless speculation about the meaning of mind. What is the mind? What is the mind? Goes right along with, who am I? He says that's the craziest question a soul could ever ask. Because the only thing a soul can be certain of is what it is. Wow. He says, and that question, what am I? What am I? He goes, that's a good question. You're just directing it to the wrong person. You who've denied what you are should not be asking yourself what you are. So it's a good question. Very good question. Stop asking it of yourself. Right? And the fact that you're asking it of yourself lets you know that you are confused about who's the creator and who's the created. I've got that authority problem going on. I think I'm the source. I think I'm the creator. And he goes on to say, that's why it's crucial, essential for you to get to one-mindedness or the integrated mind. It's crucial that you remember, I did not create myself. I did not create myself. I don't know what that means. I don't know why you're telling me to say that, of course, but I'm going to say it because you said it's essential. I did not create myself. I did not create myself. And so my nature and my reality is not a question for me. It's not something to be asking myself. It's something to be asking whoever created me. And if I want to know what my reality is, what my truth is, then I need to ask who created me. Okay, instead of sitting here contemplating my own navel, right? As if the answers are going to come from me, who did not create myself. Wow.
So I can't see who I am just because I have denied who I am.
Yes.
And as soon as I stop denying it, then I will see who I am.
Exactly.
That's all that's interfering with my seeing is that denial I did once and then keep hanging on to.
That's exactly
doing
right.
over and over and over and over.
That's exactly
or else I
right.
would see myself immediately.
That's right. I would see myself immediately. So if you're in conflict and you're confused, it can only be because you are still asking yourself. You're still making it up yourself what it means. You're still making up the interpretation of what it means and what it's for. And you are not asking the mind that created you for the truth about yourself, which would answer all your questions. So I'm in conflict because I am not going to my source who knows what I am and would tell me, which would make this problem be completely meaningless in a second, in the blink of an eye. You know, that's why he says, you want to know the root of all evil? The root of all evil, he says in chapter 4, the root of all evil is the authority problem. You have an authority problem. That's the root of all evil. You have an authority problem. You're trying to be the authority. That's why you're in conflict. Your attempt to be the authority, look what it did to yourself. You've totally scattered and shattered your own consciousness into these warring factions within yourself. That was us trying to be our creator. That was us trying to be the authority. Wow. That was us going to our own selves for the answer to who am I? Wow.
Well, you think that's why there's so much denial and so many of our problems is that's really the only, that's where the ego comes from. That's the only thing it knows how to do.
That's the only thing the ego knows how to do. Yeah. Split the mind into warring levels that are in conflict with each other and don't know each other, right? Split your mind, shatter it, and then go to that shattered mind and ask and ask and ask questions.
What should it be?
Yeah, what should I do? What does this mean? You know, why are they doing this to me? Again. Those are the meaningful questions I ask. Why is this happening to me again? And why are they doing this to me? I mean, I've told them a million times. Why? Why is God doing this to me? Why did God give everybody else all that they need, but not me? These are the questions I'm asking. What should I do? How should I protect myself from what's happening to me? Those are the meaningful questions I ask. How do I get even? Really? Isn't that nice? Those are the questions I ask. Yes. Now he's saying that the only answer to this intrapersonal conflict. Intrapersonal is me within my own self, okay? Interpersonal is me between me and others, okay? Between me and others. The only conflict to intrapersonal conflict, that I've got these different levels that are in conflict. I have different desires and different principles within my own self. And the only resolution to that kind of interpersonal or intrapsychic conflict is one-mindedness. In other words, when my mind is integrated. That's the only answer here. That's the only answer to, mental health, psychological health. Peace, inner peace. It says mental health is inner peace. Okay? So and I was like, so what does one-mindedness mean? Okay, that sounds kind of important. What does one-mindedness really mean? How do you get an integrated mind? It comes from having one purpose. And the Course in Miracles offers us the greatest gift to our mental health and our inner peace that I can even conceive of. And that is this. It teaches you how to take on one purpose, one will. Isn't that beautiful? So the problem is I have different desires and different wills within me, and they are opposite. And they want different things, and they operate by different laws, and they're always conflict with each other, okay? The only thing that will heal that is when me, the one who's choosing all of it, the one who's really in charge, chooses one purpose. Now I only have one purpose. One purpose. And what one purpose is that? The will of God. I only want the truth. I only want the one reality, the one truth, the one love, the one life, the one plan, the one will of my Creator. That's all I want. I have no idea what it is, but that's all I want. Now, as I take all of my seemingly opposite desires and I remember and apply it, all I want is the will of God. All I want is one purpose, love, love, love. Or the will of God. All I want is God's will. 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 Oh yeah, all I want is God's will. And I practice having one purpose and applying one purpose to every situation, especially the ones where I have conflict, And I remember, oh yeah, I only want one thing. What's that? Oh, okay, the will of God. All right, that's all I want. In this situation, oh, this seems like this again. Oh yeah, all I want is the will of God. All I want is God's truth. All I want is love, right? As I apply that will, that is just one will, the will I share with God, then my warring parts, all my different desires, they all start to come together like that. And then that's where I get a one mind, an integrated mind that's not at war with itself. Wow. And then my behavior becomes harmonious and consistent. How wonderful would that be? To have your behavior be consistent. Consistently positive. But do you see how adopting that one purpose, one will, one purpose integrates your mind?
So that solves the separation.
And that solves the separation.
Because
Thank you.
that was the one, and I denied it. Said, no, show me another.
Right.
I want another.
Exactly.
That's where it all started, and it gets us back to, no, I just want the one.
That's right. I just want the one. Exactly.
Then I don't have to deny to get another.
Exactly. That's why the prayer, you often see this prayer in the Course. You'll see it all through the Course in many different forms, and it's, Thy will be done. My will and God's will are one. Thy will be done. All I want to be accomplished is God's will. All I want to be accomplished is God's will. That's all I want. One will, God's will. Thy will be done. Thy will be done, not mine. My will and God's will are one. You know, and for years and years, I would hear that thought all through, and I was just like, I guess there's something to it, you know, he like says that all the time. Why is it that he says, if you just say, thy will and my will are one, and my will and God's will are one, why is it that he says all the time, if you just say that, then that will cure your fractured mind? And now I get it. I'm like, oh, right. Because that's me integrating the levels in my mind, which represent different desires, into one desire, one will for everything. And then I'm not a bunch of contradicting desires that are fighting with each other.
Because when I say I want my will, I have too many conflicting wills.
Exactly. And he says the separation really was where I thought I made up my own will. Right? There is no will but God's. Right? God said, let there be light. Let there be one love, one life, eternal, one forever. Amen. And I said, well, I think I'd rather have something else. That was the separation. I was like, no, I want something else. So in other words, I made up my own will. I made up another will and thought that it was real. And that's my problem. I made up my own will, and the Course says that's my own secret sin that I am protecting and hiding. I made up my own will, meaning I made up my own reality. And then I became defensive for it. And I was willing, and then I took on a body to make it seem true. And then I was willing to murder for it, to defend it. Right. Wow. So that's how one-mindedness is the cure for the mental illness of being fractured psychologically and mentally. Isn't that great? So now I'm practicing one-mindedness. Oh, okay, so for 5 minutes I'm going to sit here and I'm going to practice having one mind. Not many. I'm going to practice having one mind, being of one mind, be of one mind, be of one mind. That's a blessing and a prayer all in one. Be of one mind. For 5 minutes, be of one mind. For 5 minutes, want one thing. For 5 minutes, hold your mind to one will, and a will you didn't create. For 5 minutes, we're going to practice one-mindedness. That's the nature of the workbook lesson. Okay? All right. All right. Am I seeing correctly, is it a 8:45? What time is that, 8:45? Okay.
Like 13 till.
13 till, okay, thank you. Let's stop here, shall we? That was plenty, don't you think?
It's good.
Yeah. All right.
How about next week?
No class next week, it's Labor Day. No class next week. Oh, thank you for that. Thank you for that one little jutting lower lip. For that pout, I'll end my vacation plans and that's how good your pout is.
I should have class on
Thank you.
Is it your birthday? Wow.
Miracles be good on a birthday.
And Patrick's birthday's the day before that.
Is this the 31st, Patrick?
Yes.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, you guys have more in common than you realize.
Comes right up.
Yeah. Okay. So thank you for your love offerings. Thank you for your financial expressions of appreciation.
Thank you.
And don't forget, you can go to my website, AnnaKujawa.com, to learn more about my holistic counseling practice, Miracle Psychotherapeutics. All my classes are online on YouTube for free. I've also started a new series where I'm just reading the course. That's all I'm doing, just reading the course to the camera, and I'm just reading, and I call it the Lullaby Course Series. And the reason I call it that is because the course is like a loving mother singing me back to sanity, right? Here I am, you know, and the loving mother's like, you're safe, you're innocent, it's just a dream, it's just a dream, you're safe, you're not anything that you're thinking about right now, everything you think happened, didn't happen. It's just a dream. You're perfectly safe at home in God. And so the course is like that for me, you know. When I'm insane and out of my mind and I let myself listen to the course, literally that's what I hear. It's like, doo-doo-boo, it's okay. You're just having a bad dream. You're still safe. Nothing has happened. Nothing has happened. It's okay. Don't be afraid. Literally. And that is what the course is like for me. So this is my gift back to whomever wants to watch them, to give them that same kind of, I read it like that. I read it as if I'm a loving mother singing her child back to sanity. Okay? That's why I call it Lullaby Course. It's helpful for listening to while you're falling asleep. It's helpful for meditation, as a meditation aid, or when you are just insane. And you are so insane. Tell me if you've ever experienced this. When you are so insane, you can't even open up the damn book. Anybody? Okay. When you can't even open the book because your ego's got you by the throat like this. When you're so insane that, I don't want to read that book. Then you can put it on and just let it think for you, or let it pray for you. Okay, so that's called Lullaby Course, and those are on YouTube. Yes?
I love the fact that you taught us a long time ago that this curriculum also puts the ego to sleep.
Yes.
Because it doesn't want to hear this shit.
That's exactly right. And I have to tell you, I have a friend who she loves the course, and she says, she calls me up, she goes, this is before I did the Lullaby Course series, and she goes, you know, whenever I can't sleep, I just put on one of your classes, and it just puts me to sleep. And so when I started doing the series, I texted her and I said, hey man, like, I have the perfect insomnia cure for you. And so she then texted me later, she goes, it worked! She said, I fell asleep in the first 5 minutes. So, it is the miracle insomnia cure. There were times where, like when I can't sleep, because my ego's like, and this is what I say to my ego, and it works every time. I said, if you don't leave me alone, I'm going to pick up that course, or I'm going to put on the CD, and I am going to listen to every single word. I'm going to listen to every single word on that CD. And that's what I said to my ego, and I'm asleep in 5 minutes. I'm asleep in 5 minutes. It works like a charm. Ego, you don't get off my back. I am going to listen to every single word of this CD, this course CD. And it works every time. So there's your insomnia cure. But it's also a good mental health tonic. It's a very good mental health tonic. It really is. Just listening to it has the ability to bring you back to your right mind. Just even listening. So, there you go. And it's free! All right. So now we're going to do our integration meditation. And, hey Patrick, would you be willing to grab my phone from Aria so that we can use that? All right. Any questions or comments about what we heard? What was it like to hear this particular section? Talking about the levels of the mind and Freud and the psyche. What was it like to hear that tonight?
When Jim brought up the time thing, when you were talking about integration,
Yeah.
I thought it was cool that the only parts of time that cause conflict and confusion are the past and the future.
That's right.
And now is the miracle. Now is complete integration. Because
That's
now
right.
everything is here. It is now.
Very good. Exactly. That was a great point you made, Jim. That the levels we've split our mind into correspond with the levels we've made of time. You know, time, past, present, future. All right. So now in the integration meditation, the purpose here is to just, for just a few moments, feel what we heard. And just see how it feels. And then to apply it. So what I want you to do is close your eyes and just breathe. And just tune into how you feel right now. How do these ideas feel in your mind and in your body? And just breathe. And just feel. Just breathe. Now I want you to bring to your awareness a situation where you have been experiencing some conflict recently or chronically. And I want you to just look at that conflict, that issue a bit. How does it look? How does it sound? How does it feel? And now I want you to look into this situation in which there's conflict. And I want you to look to see if you can identify the opposite desires the different levels, the opposite desires within you that went into that conflict. What are these seemingly opposite desires that you see manifesting and conflicting with each other in that situation? Like maybe you see the will to love and the will to attack, both manifesting and conflicting in that situation. But look for those conflicting desires that are showing up in that situation. I want to join, but I also want to separate. And then give yourself this open-ended question to help deepen it. In this situation, I see my conflicting desires of this and that, and identify those two things. And then tell yourself the truth. This conflict is a picture of my conflicting desires, my split will. Beautiful. And now we're going to bring integration into your mind by remembering the one will that you want, the one purpose that you would have instead of these conflicting desires. And so we say, my desires were in conflict, but now I remember that my one purpose is, and my one desire is, and then fill in the blank. I now remembered my only one purpose in this situation is, and the only one thing I want to come of this situation is. And go ahead and choose that one higher purpose. This situation is showing me my conflicting desires, but in this holy instant, I choose only the will of God, the will of love. And then consciously choose one-mindedness. For a moment, be one-minded about this situation. I want only love in this situation. I want only the will of God to be done in this situation. Only love is real. Only love is what I want in this situation. Thy will be done, love. Your plan be manifest and accomplished in this, love. All I want is your plan for this situation, love. I don't know what your plan is, love, but that's all I want in this holy instant. Your one will, love. Your one plan, love. And your one truth for all, love. Be done now in this situation. For a moment, just practice being of one mind, one will. For one moment, want only one thing, one will, one reality, one truth, one love, one life. Be of one mind within yourself. In this holy instant, all I want is one will, and that is beautiful. And then just breathe that feeling in. What does even practicing being of one mind feel like? How does it feel? Beautiful, and then just take a breath and gently bring your awareness back to your body and back to the room. All right.
Thank you, Anna.
Wow, thank you guys. I needed that. Thank you. Give it up for yourself. All right, go be of one mind.